17 threes in 2 games on the way to gold and a little night-night to France on the way out in their home gymnasium. What a performance by Steph Curry. I think puts him in the GOAT conversation. Matt Kolsky and myself going to discuss it on Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is a great day to talk about the United States winning a gold medal, and a big part due to the way Steph Curry played. Welcome to Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making it the first listen of every day. We are free and available wherever you get your audio podcasts. And if you're watching on YouTube, we very much appreciate it if you just take 2 seconds and hit that thumbs up button. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. On today's show, it's myself, Charlie Walter, formerly of 95.7 The Game and KPIX in San Francisco. Matt Kolsky joins me today. He currently fills in on KNBR. I was his producer way back in the day for some Warriors postgame and the inaugural show, Kolsky and Company, and joins me today to talk all things United States, all things Steph Curry. And we're going to get into the Dubs rotation this year because I haven't heard from Kolsky on the Warriors in quite some time. But welcome, man. How are we doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I just, before anything else, we're going to talk about all sorts of things and maybe argue a little bit. But can I just say first, I just felt so good watching the last 2 games of USA men's basketball. Just watching Steph Curry, who, look, my career in the Bay Area and Steph Curry's, I'm lucky enough to have basically had the same career. Let me rephrase that. Same timeline. That's what I mean. And watching him from start to now and seeing the way he's carried himself, the way he has achieved every possible accolade, and to be able to have not just a gold medal where he was along for the ride, but signature quintessential Steph Curry moments in the Olympics after just kind of weirdly coincidentally missing out on it the last few rounds. It made me feel so good. I just felt great.
I think the biggest thing to throw up is this quote from just a couple days ago. A lot of my job on this team is to create attention and open up shots for other guys. I'm not getting a lot of shots. So as long as I keep cutting hard and playing off the ball, somebody's going to get an open look. And he later said in that interview that eventually with the way Team USA plays, the floodgates could open. But I mean, that quote was following a 1-for-9 performance, 0 of 6 from 3. Just didn't look to be a factor. There were talks about the FIBA ball and how, it wasn't spinning as well off the fingers. I mean, we could really find a way to just dissect anything nowadays in sports talk radio. But it was like, is the game too physical overseas for Steph Curry? And it starts to seep in your mind and you start to wonder, maybe he's just not fit to play in this style of basketball game. And then you remember, oh, yeah. He's one of the best players on the planet and probably top 3 best active players still to this day. And we just forget that when he does what he does.
Yeah, and I think part of it is also that he has not been since 2022. He's not been at the highest of heights for the most people to watch, right? He hasn't had an opportunity to perform those kinds of magic tricks in critical moments because his team has not been playing in critical moments largely. So
two though. I mean, in the last 3 years, you had, obviously, this is 2022, but game 4 of Boston, you felt like this when he hit 7 threes, had 43 points. And then game 7 of Sacramento the following year when he put up 50.
But Chuck, we forget much faster than that as human beings. We forget so fast, right? And so, yeah, we're having all sorts of ridiculous conversations, equally ridiculous as the Steve Kerr doesn't know how to coach a basketball team.
We just experienced so much from the world watching basketball. It was amazing, an amazing Olympics, so fun to watch. And there's still a very small portion of people out there that the only takeaway from this is Steve Kerr found a way to almost blow gold.
Oh, man. Yeah, well, some people have no interest in the joyous parts of sports. I don't know what to do about that. But this was beautiful in so many ways to see what Curry did, to see LeBron at 39 still I mean, is there anybody you'd rather have with the ball in their hands going to the basket when you need a bucket? I don't know that there is. Even
downhill, no. Downhill,
at
no.
39,
It's over. It's over when he goes downhill.
It's remarkable. And I was thinking, and I wish Noah Eagle had asked this, because Dwayne Wade is sitting there. They're the same age, basically. And 3 or 4 years ago, when Wade's career ended, his body was failing him completely, right? I mean, he had nothing left physically in his body. There was nothing. And LeBron at 39 is still dominating the best athletes in the world. It's mind-blowing.
It really is. But my takeaways, the world is coming. Really have to start praising the basketball world. And then Steph Curry's ending to the game. At this point, if you haven't seen the highlights, you got to get on YouTube right now.
The last one. The last three. That was like fading, insanely quick release. I mean, it was the world got to experience. And you know what? NBA fans across America got to have the feeling that Warriors fans have gotten to have so many times of having that dude on your side when he goes nuclear. There's nothing like it.
Well, how many people are on the East Coast that can't watch a lot of his games, and they get him when he gets deep into the playoffs. And then when you get 2 years in a row where he doesn't go deep into the playoffs, unless you're watching Game 7 in Sacramento, you haven't got to see it for a while. He gives you a night. He knocks down, 17 threes over the course of 2 days. Over a weekend, 17 of 26, averaged 30 points over 2 games, scored 60. Man. So it's just remarkable stuff. Does not win the MVP despite leading the team in scoring overall. LeBron James, who led the team in rebounds and was right behind Curry in terms of points and was quite frankly more consistent and was bearing the flag, gets the MVP. And you can make that debate. What you can't make a debate of is when the game was on the line for 2 straight days. I would say this game for sure, 1,000% gold game. And you can make the argument in the semifinal against Serbia as well. The history book pictures, the pictures we'll remember, the moments we will remember, most of which were provided by Steph Curry. Were they not?
Yeah. Yeah, there were a couple others, but most of it was Steph Curry. And again, there's something magic about some of the shots he hits that I think they'll stick in your mind longer than, Anthony Davis finishing at the rim or even LeBron driving for a dunk late, right? They're all great. This team is so great. There's so much talent, but there is something special about Steph Curry. There's no question about it.
I just find it kind of absurd that fans of the United States, it would have been a big disappointment had they gotten the silver. And then you look at Serbia, obviously doesn't have the basketball expectations of the United States. But you see how proud they are as a country and those players getting up there celebrating bronze.
Jokic was excited for a bronze, yeah.
Absolutely. They're all excited for any medal they can get. And in the U.S., we just, take it for granted and put so much pressure on these guys to where the entire conversation surrounding this run was about Jason Tatum this and about, why isn't Tyrese Halliburton playing? Or, why is Devin White on the team? There's all these just underlying storylines that everyone is bantering about and not enjoying what's in front of us. But what we can enjoy is that we got one final run of Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and LeBron James. These are 3 guys that a decade ago. LeBron's won a gold medal in 3 different decades. One at 08, one at 12, one at 24. 3 different decades we've gotten to enjoy these guys. And I just hope that all the basketball fans out there that watch this together realize that that's the last times, aside from an all-star game where you're putting up 200 points, you're going to see these guys put on that United States jersey and play competitive basketball. And it was a thing of beauty. That's I will remember where I was moment for the rest of my life watching that finish, watching Curry get it over the outstretched arm of Wembanyama. I'm sure you've seen that picture.
Yep. Incredible picture. And there was a play, and this play, Noah Eagle and Dwayne Wade did make a special note of, where Curry cut, LeBron found Curry on the cut, and he cut through under the rim and kicked it out to Kevin Durant for a 3. And it was just like, wow, LeBron to Curry to Durant for 3 is something you do not get to see very often. You should appreciate what you're watching right now. And yeah, those are 3 of the, conservatively, without argument, 3 of the 20 best players of all time playing together for Team USA. It's a special thing.
does he deserve to be in the GOAT status? Last time we got a publication that came out with the top 75, it was Steph Curry, I think, that was 13th of all time rated by ESPN. Seems a little low. I don't like spending entire episodes talking about, hypotheticals, who could play in this era, that era. But I give my take. You give your take on why he deserves to be in this conversation that is coming. Passion, drive, and patience. It is what keeps your ride or die alive, and it is also the winning formula for winning championships. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, the list goes on and on. We got exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts through Number One Ride or Die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. So Steph Curry, I don't want to make the argument with Michael and LeBron and Kobe and Wilt and Kareem and just the different eras that go into it. It's really hard to make an argument. I think it's silly. It's a waste of time. But he deserves to be in the greatest of all time conversation. With what we're seeing in this era, where scrutiny is at a click of a button, the way that he's done it off the floor, the way that he's carried himself, the way that no one can guard him from any era. We know this, Kolsky. Like, we don't need to watch the tape of the Dream Team to know that even Jordan, even the best defenders in the game would struggle to guard this guy. Like, he just can get it off in a split second. The moves that he has are sometimes overlooked because of his ability to shoot, but that may be just as an impressive part of his package is the actual ability to put the ball in the hoop, is the way that he can just get it off at any time, where he slings it over the shoulder, gets it back, fires it up with two defenders draped all over him, and bang.
And the rim finishing has gotten so much better too. I mean, he does some magical stuff. He's not Kyrie Irving, but he's damn close. He at his height and with his frame. And look, Stephen Curry is taller and stronger than most people I know, but in the NBA, he's still a relatively short and slight guy, and he does some remarkable stuff. I mean, he's so strong for his body, and he is such an incredible finisher. And, look, other than turnovers, which he's never totally solved, there's no flaw in Steph Curry's game that isn't just a physical limitation. Right? I mean, he's not a high flyer because he's not a high flyer, but he's not going to be an elite defender because he's 6'3" on a good day. But he's as good a defender as he could be. He's the greatest shooter of all time. He's an incredible finisher, an incredible ball handler. Like, the guy is unbelievable. And if it depends what you mean by the GOAT conversation to me, right? He's not as good as Michael Jordan or LeBron James. And I, with all due respect. But once we get past those top 4 or 5, depending on how you rank it out, for me, the guys right now, Curry, Durant, they go right into that basket with Bird and Magic. And, the next group probably goes from maybe 5 to 12. That's where he's at. He's top 10 every time for me. And I'm a guy who generally ranks Kobe a little bit lower just because I think there were more flaws in Kobe's game, but that always gets heard as disrespect for Kobe, and I don't disrespect Kobe. He's an incredible top 15 easy of all time player. So Duncan, Kobe, Bird, Magic, that whole group to me is where Steph Curry belongs.
Which is one of the greatest of all time. The conversation, right?
Yep.
It's hard to, you watch LeBron out there, and I mean, he's top 3. People that don't include LeBron in their top 3, I don't understand that, man. Like, what are you watching?
Who's the 3 for you? Just we're not going to do the whole thing, but I'm curious. When you say top 3, like Jordan, LeBron, and who?
It's so hard because, like, you gotta just watching their tape, you gotta include a Kareem or a Wilt, like one of those guys that are from a different era that I can't really resonate with. But it's just
that's the thing,
so dominant in the numbers, and
it just starts becoming a like, who do I want to display my respect for, right? That's what we're talking about when we get into Wilt and Kareem, because I'm older than you, but not old enough to have watched real Kareem. I remember a little bit of 40-year-old Kareem, but not real Kareem. Certainly didn't watch Wilt. You know, Bill Russell is nothing but a legend to me, and I get, like, no one's going to rank Steph Curry above Bill Russell on a list, right? But I do struggle. I struggle to picture Bill Russell on a court with Steph Curry not having some trouble, you know. So it all becomes a goofy conversation. But I just don't think there's any doubt when you get below that very top group of people who have a legitimate claim to the greatest ever. Steph belongs with all the rest of those guys.
The moments that I remember the most from the 3 players in my lifetime personally.
Yeah,
it's Steph, it's LeBron, it's probably like Shaq. I mean, prime Shaq was just an incredible watch, man. He'd get it 5 feet from the bucket. Next thing you know, his arm would just, like, did he just dunk that?
And he was so remarkably quick, and the footwork was so
magic Shaq. Like, oh yeah, incredible stuff. But I mean, it's hard to make the comparison. People's primes, you know, they're
right. And even like, let's even say they had played at the same time. How do you compare Shaquille O'Neal and Stephen Curry?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You can't. It's impossible stuff. What we do know is
entirely different.
What we do know, Kolsky, is he was the 7th pick in the 2009 draft behind Blake Griffin, Hasheem Thabeet, James Harden, Tyreek Evans, Ricky Rubio, and Johnny Flynn. I find it funny that the Wolves had the 5th and 6th pick, and they took Rubio and Johnny Flynn and didn't think to gamble on the greatest shooter of all time. But
forever, I mean, you have taken 2 point guards. You took 2 small guys in the Steph Curry draft, and Steph Curry was available, and neither of them were Steph Curry. You'll never ever. I mean, David Kahn will be a joke forever. You will never live that down. Yeah, it's incredible. I will say, like,
millennium. Yeah,
Thabeet is an equally bad pick because it was patently obvious from the NCAA tournament, if not before, that he was not an NBA player. He never looked like an NBA. It was pure height. They drafted pure height. It is that truly is one of the worst. Like, Rubio of the guards that got picked is probably the most understandable to me because it's easy to forget the hype on Rubio at that point in time. Flynn did not make sense. Tyreek Evans did not make a ton of sense, although he had a decent career. But to beat, like, one of my clearest basketball scouting memories is watching DeJuan Blair. You remember DeJuan Blair, right?
Oh, yeah, the Pitt Panther, yeah.
That's right. It was Pitt UConn in the tournament. It might even have been the Big East tournament. And DeJuan Blair boxed out. He was like 6'9", and the big deal with DeJuan Blair was he had no ligaments in his knees. They were all gone. All of his ligaments were gone. And he boxed out Hasheem Thabeet, and when Thabeet tried to reach over him and grab the rebound, he flipped 7'3" Hasheem Thabeet over his head. And at that moment, I said, Hasheem Thabeet cannot play for my NBA team.
Yeah. And he didn't. Instead, you got Steph Curry, and he's been pretty good for a long time.
Worked out.
But he's obviously the starting point guard this season. The Dubs do have a lot of depth at a lot of different positions. We're breaking that down next. Kolsky continues with me on Locked On Warriors. What does the Warriors depth chart look like? Where are some of these players going to slide in? All right, Kolsky, help me talk about the Gametime app because it's good stuff. I love going to MLB games during the summer. And one of the really nice things for someone like me is I'm never buying tickets 2 hours before the game, 3 hours before the game. I'm someone that gets down there and I worry about it once I get off the train. And with this app, you get last-minute deals, up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater when you choose Gametime. Not only that, you get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy. I know that you from time to time have gone down to Wrigley Field. You don't want that pole in front of you that they have on the first baseline. With this,
you got to
don't
know
have
if you're
that
in
issue.
an obstructed view seat for sure.
Yeah, and this gives you that for sure. And if you're going to a game at Oracle, you can see the bay in the picture, or you're 5 rows up. You're too far up. You can't see the bay. So take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Gametime. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. I was in the large, I think minority, could be majority. I don't know. It's hard to base an entire fan base's opinions off of YouTube comments. I think that's not fair whatsoever. But in the YouTube comments, it was split somewhat. How do you feel the Warriors did in terms of not going for a big star this offseason and riding with what they got? I'll tell you this. With Steph looking as good as he did in the Olympics, I'm now in the large majority of you got to do everything possible to go out there and try to win this guy another. They're doing it the right way, in my opinion, of letting the young guys blossom, keeping those picks intact the next few years in case it doesn't work and you just don't have the horses in the barn to run with some of these other NBA teams. You at least have a future set up while you're still solid. But in terms of how this team looks, so much of it is revolving on Andrew Wiggins bouncing back to a serviceable NBA player, which he was not last year. He was not that good. It relies on Bajemski taking a jump. It relies on Kuminga turning into a player that commands $40-50 million a year and deserves it. And it relies on a jump from like a Trace Jackson Davis. It relies on Steph Curry continuing to be the same player that he's been and Draymond not falling off. And if all those things happen, you now got a good team. But where does the hierarchy come in for you? Because Kuminga and Wiggins could be fighting for some playing time if Kuminga's planning to play the 3. If not, where does Kevon Looney fall into the mix? Is he going to have a role on this team? Like, there's just a lot that has to play out that we really don't know, because we know that when Looney's healthy, he's going to get some minutes.
I actually think maybe not.
Will he be on this team?
Well, unless there's a trade that somehow his salary, makes things work, he'll be on the team. They love him. I think they love him in the locker room and on the practice floor, whether he's playing or not. But they need a vertical threat. And if, maybe that means if Kuminga's playing the 3, you can live with Looney at the 5. But Jackson Davis helped a lot last year. And I would expect him to get the bulk of the minutes. And I think you'll still see Draymond playing some 5, especially if you want to get Wiggins and Kuminga on the floor at the same time. I am torn. The information you get in the offseason is never complete. So, we've seen this reporting that seems to suggest that the reason Lauri Markkanen is not a Warrior is because the Warriors absolutely refuse to part with Brandon Bajemski. I don't know if I believe that. If it's true, I think it's not great. If it's not true, which I kind of suspect, I think it was more Danny Ainge testing the waters and deciding he didn't really want to trade Lauri Markkanen, and Lauri Markkanen not really being excited about being traded. Look, I think if you could have added a player of Markkanen's stature and ability, it would have changed the conversation. But since you didn't, I think the conversation is about the young guys. Like you said, the improvement within this team, there's marginal improvement to depth. DeAnthony Melton is a good player, right? I mean, they added some.
Their role players are better. Yep.
Their role players are 100% better. There is more experience in role players on this team. But if they're going to be significantly better than last year, it's going to be about 2 guys you mentioned in Kuminga and Bajemski, and 1 guy you didn't, which is Moses Moody. And I think in a perfect world, Andrew Wiggins is not on this team come playoff time, whether that is a deadline deal or I don't know. To me, I struggle to imagine the Andrew Wiggins of 22 returning at any point to anyone. And if he's not that guy, then I need to see Moody and Kuminga on the floor more, because their ceiling remains high. And you didn't get the big name, so I don't think you have a better choice than giving significantly more rope to the young guys. Moses Moody should be playing 20-plus minutes every night. Jonathan Kuminga should be 30-plus minutes every night. If he's messing stuff up, fair enough. Use it as a teaching moment. We can't be pulling these guys off the floor at every mistake. They got to have some rope to learn, to grow more than they have in the first 3 years of their career.
With Moses Moody, the fact that he was put in the only trade offer that we know 1,000% went down this offseason, that was an offer that was rejected. It was Moses Moody for Markkanen and the picks. The fact that he was thrown in that and no one else, to me, is that Steve Kerr and company are not as high on him as the others, obviously. So with that being said, you have Podziemski as the starting 2. You have potentially Wiggins as the starting 3. You now bring in Buddy Hield that fits one of those roles. Melton that can be a backup point guard, a backup 2. Anderson can play some 3. Don't forget they got a two-way guy in Plowden that I think they're higher in than most two-way guys in the past, just with the way that he's played this summer.
I think much to Warrior fans' chagrin, you're gonna slide a lot of those guys up. I don't think Anderson plays a minute at 3. I think he's a 4-5 exclusively, and I think he's going to get more minutes at 5 than a lot of people would like. Once again, they don't have a new star. Once again, they're an incredibly short basketball team in the front court, but that's just who they are. Draymond has to play some 5 and the bulk of his minutes at 4. Kyle Anderson, Trace Jackson Davis, who at least can jump and can be a big presence, but he's only like 6'9", 6'10", if that. Mm-hmm. Looney, 6'9", 6'10", if he's playing. Like, they don't have anybody bigger. That's why Markkanen would have been really nice. But again, this is what they are. So I think Anderson's primarily a 5 on this team. He's Dario Saric. And I think Melton will play 2. I think Hield will play 2 and even some 3. And I think Moses Moody's a 3. So Kuminga's going to play 3 and 4. They're crowded at the 3, which is why I think in the long run, Andrew Wiggins is not a part of this if it goes well.
I mean, you didn't even mention the name Gary Payton, and there's obviously a reason why, but I mean, he's involved in this depth too. And you starting to look at all these different players and you're like, someone's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah, usually there's an injury, right?
Yeah. I mean,
but you're right. You're right. Someone's the odd man out, and somebody is playing bigger than they are. That's going to be Gary Payton. That's going to be Kyle Anderson. It's going to be even probably Buddy Hield at the 3 sometimes. Like, it's going to be weird.
I remember a few months ago on Shaq's podcast, Draymond was on it, and they were talking about who would win best Warriors team of the last 15 years, or Shaq's worst team, essentially, that he played on, even the Heat. And Draymond's like, we win in 5. And he's like, who's stopping me? And he said, no one's stopping you. We're just not letting you get the ball. Like, I'm going to play in front of you, and we're going to have Bogut play behind you. And Shaq starts laughing or whatever. But that's just the way the Warriors kind of get it done around the rim, right? They're shorter. Draymond can front players. They can make sure that they neutralize the opposition. I mean, you've seen it so much with Jokic. They're never stopping Jokic. No. When they beat the Nuggets in the first round of the playoffs back in 22, I mean, they just neutralized him enough, to where he got his and they stopped everyone else got it.
I got news, and Shaq knows this. He just likes to talk trash. Who stopped Shaq when he was playing?
No,
nobody stopped Shaq.
But not many stopped the Lakers. I mean,
but I mean, Shaq had plenty of years he didn't win a title. You know what I mean? And you don't stop him. You make it harder for him. And as strange as it may sound, Draymond Green and Kevon Looney have made it really hard for a lot of guys that are much taller than them and much bigger and stronger than them. Whether that's Jokic or I don't know who the next best example is, but that's what they do. Draymond has been making it hard on guys who are bigger than him for money for the last decade. Yeah. That's his job. Would the Warriors beat the Heat? yeah, there's 2 or 3 versions of the Warriors that would beat that Heat team. The best version of the Warriors, I truly think, is a tough matchup for literally everybody of all time. So
I want kind of your final 30-second take on this team entering the year. My philosophy is it's kind of wait and see mode. You have to see what the young players did in terms of their development by themselves in the offseason, how they start playing as the year begins. And then once you get midway through, you can look at your team and try to reconfigure it where you're lacking, because they do have some assets they can flip, some contracts they can work with. Do they want to give Kuminga all this money, even if he is balling out, or could they potentially, flip him for someone that more so fits what they're looking for? Like you have some options to move players around. I am kind of in wait and see mode. I think they're going to be solid, not championship contenders. Your take is?
I think they are a solid Western Conference team that certainly should be in the play-in, and if things break right, they have a chance at a 5 or 6 seed as they are. I think, if there's a big trade to be had, there's still enough here to make a contender. I don't know who that guy is, though. And I'm not sure. I love the Markkanen idea. That's fully off the table. I don't know who the next best option is. I don't like Brandon Ingram for this team. I mean, if you flip Wiggins for Ingram, I guess you're slightly more dynamic offensively. You're definitely not as good defensively. And he doesn't seem like a Warrior type of guy. Who else is there? I just don't know that there's a star to fix this thing. So your best chance is Jonathan Kuminga shocking all of us, right? I mean, that's the most likely way for the Warriors to become contenders, in my book, is a full Hall of Fame level season from Steph and Draymond and Jonathan Kuminga shocking the world, which is not outside the realm of possibility, right? I mean, no. Like, if there's a trade out there that someone sees, I'd love to hear about it. And I'm not, if you can, I would not have been 100% opposed to trading Kuminga for Markkanen. I'm not sure I would have done it, but I certainly would have talked about it. I obviously would have traded Podziemski for Markkanen and picks. If there's someone else that fits, I'd love to hear about it. I haven't thought of it. And if they don't find that someone else who fits, it's going to have to be the young guys. It's going to have to be Podziemski and Kuminga being better than anybody ever thought they would be this year.
Yeah, man. And that's why I'm just saying they're waiting in the weeds. They got to see what they have. And then if Kuminga is the one that can potentially get them over the top, you ride with Kuminga and you try to bring in another vet guy, flipping maybe Wiggins, who has a good start to the season. And his stock
maybe you can flip Wiggins for like a big guy that helps your rim protection. Maybe you can, a little move on the margins that improves you if you start to get a consistent 20 points a night and 8 rebounds out of Jonathan Kuminga. Then it's like all of a sudden, all right, maybe there's something here.
Yep. Hope you get the 21-22 where it's a strength in numbers type situation, which we've seen with the Warriors before. Matt Kolsky, KNBR. You can check him out filling in on the radio. Always good stuff from you, my man. Thanks for coming on. Let's do it again soon.
Always my pleasure.
Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Peace.